What is up, guys? It's your boy Nick Torius. Back again with another video. And I'm going to be talking about how effective Duolingo is, right? We all know the language learning app. We all use it. Let's talk about it. So with that being said, like the video, comment below what you think, subscribe if you know. Let's get into it. Ooh, all right. So, I basically been using Duolingo since I would say like 2011, right? 2011, 2012, like right before like while I was in high school it came out, and I think I was just like trying to learn Spanish, so I was like looking up apps and I found Duolingo, and I was like, because all the other apps sucked, to be honest, but then Duolingo came and I was like, oh, what is this? And it was like fun, right? It was like a fun way to learn Spanish. So basically I live in Miami, right? And Miami is basically Cuba, right? So I don't really live in Miami. I live in Cuba, because everyone here speaks Spanish, basically. Like anyone you talk to, they'll be like, "Hey, hombre," or whatever, right? And you know, honestly, it's been so hard to learn a language, right? Like other countries, it's very common to hear other people being like, oh, I speak five languages, 6 languages, 4 languages, 2 languages, right? Most people around the world are bilingual except America. And I think that when you only know Spanish, I think that when you only know English, like when English is your first language, I feel like it's harder to learn other languages. I think there's something about English, because a lot of times you'll find people that speak English and it's like you could just tell they'll never learn another language, right? Like there's nothing that they can do to learn another language, at least for me, because they're already old, right? And they say that the older you get, the harder it is to learn languages. I feel like that's the opposite, because I am able to learn things a lot faster now than I was when I was a kid. I think I had like a learning disability or something. But yeah, so I downloaded Duolingo. A little backstory on me: before I was interested in learning Spanish, I always thought Spanish was evil, right? Because I used to be in church, and I always had this thing against old people. Like I always felt like old people were like evil, like witches. I think someone told me that old women they're like brujas, they do brujeria and all that shit. And you know, I thought that they were evil. So I thought that when they spoke Spanish, they were saying curses, like whoa, and I didn't even like curse words, right? Like if someone said stupid, like that shit like fucking hurts my veins. I was like, oh my god, you're so stupid. But yeah, when I heard about like the witches and stuff, and like the old ladies, like viejitas, they said that they were witches. So I was like, I don't want to ever learn Spanish. So I thought that Spanish was like the devil's language, right? So fast forward, I'm in like 2nd grade, 3rd grade, right? And then I'm in Spanish class. I think that's the first time I ever took Spanish class, and I was just not having it, right? Like I was just rejecting Spanish. I was like, no. Like the only Spanish word I remember ever was oso, meaning bear, and like oso and rojo. For some reason, those are the only 2 words that I ever still comprehend and remember. So you know, I was just like, I had an F every time I took Spanish class. I had an F. And I took Spanish once and I never took it again. And even when I was in like middle school, I took French, and in high school I took French. And I don't know, I know a little, I can understand a little bit of French, not really, but it's like I was just super against Spanish until later on in my life. I grew up and I realized, you know what, I need to learn Spanish. So what did I do? I looked up a bunch of apps and I started, you know, I didn't take any Spanish classes. I didn't take a Spanish class till like college, right? And I was like, you know, I'm just gonna take a Spanish class and I'm gonna actually learn it. And I started doing Duolingo, and I would like look up stuff on the internet, and I would use these other apps. But you know, when I started doing Duolingo, I was learning the words, like the vocabulary and stuff. But it was just like Spanish is so hard, bro. it's like I'm still like even last night I was doing Duolingo, and it said like yo te necesito or something, but it's like it like when I say it in my head, it's like I help. Like, what? What is that? How does that make sense? You feel me? Like, because I'm an English mind, and it's like when you speak, because English is so easy to me, right? And even to Spanish people, they say, oh, Spanish is hard, because Spanish is hard as fuck. And you know, Spanish is so hard. But yeah, and it's like I still, because Duolingo is good if you like, if you're taking a class, right? Like, I don't believe that you can learn a whole language just off of Duolingo. I feel like you have to like take a class. Like, you need someone to speak to help you. Like, you need a teacher. You need an actual mentor, right? You can't just learn oh, I'm gonna learn Russian tomorrow. Like, nah. You might learn some words and be able to pick it up, but the grammar and all that stuff, like, Duolingo isn't the best at like explaining and teaching, right? It's more better to like, cause especially when I first started Duolingo, bro, that's when they didn't have that many lessons, right? It was more like they had like probably 10. You could get up to like level 10, and you know, they started adding more and more, but they didn't have that much. So they were like, it was like it, and it's always like this, right? For some reason, Spanish and math are always the same, right? For me, it always goes from like, okay, this is super easy, to what the fuck? What do you say? Like, what is this? Right? It always goes from super easy to super hard, like super difficult, right? So it's like, oh, okay, we're gonna learn our numbers, uno, dos, tres, and then it's like the past participle, and it's like, what the hell? I don't even know what that means in English. You feel me? Like, what is a participle and what is a past participle? And it's like, and then they have all these complex, and especially like back in the day, Duolingo, it was like, it just goes from 0 to 100, and it's like, because it had such a limited slot, so it's like all that stuff in the middle of like the grammar and stuff, it's like it just expects you to know it. And especially like the idioms, like if you are taking Spanish and you know Spanish and you're doing Duolingo idiomas, bruh, I feel you're gonna feel my pain, because it's like, oh, did you fall from heaven? Because, you know, blah blah blah. And it's like you would translate it to English, but it's like the idiom, like they expect you to already know the idiom, and it's like, I don't know the idiom. I don't even know the idiom in English. Why would I know it in Spanish? Like you have to know the entire idiom in Spanish, but it's like, isn't the point of it to teach you it? Like, shouldn't they tell you, okay, this is why? Like, I feel like Duolingo should do a better job at breaking down, right? Like, actually breaking everything down to like molecules, because I feel like to learn a language, you have to break it down to the molecules. But anyways, I don't want to make this video too long. I've had a 365 day streak. I think the longest I've gone was like 380, right? I think it was like 380 days, and then I lost my streak, and I was like, fuck it, right? Because I already lost the streak. Already 380 days. So I've done a whole year on Duolingo, but I've been doing it for like this is probably my eighth or ninth year. I've been doing it for 9 years, studying Spanish for 9 years. I'm not that bad at Spanish. Like, I don't understand a lot, but I understand, like, this is coming from someone who's like listened to countless podcasts in Spanish. Like, I listen to so many, like, oh, learn Spanish for beginners. I listen to like Notes in Spanish, Discover Spanish podcasts, like a whole bunch of them, and it's still hard. Like, I still don't get it. I've finally been able to understand it a little bit, like the grammar. I think that's why I need, like, a grammar book. But honestly, yeah, like I can kind of speak to people. Like, Duolingo helps, right? It helps, but I don't think, like, after, because I did it every single day. Granted, I only did one a day, like one lesson a day, but there was times I was doing 3 lessons a day, and it was still hard to understand it, because I guess it's the same as anything, right? I would go from like being super consistent to not being super consistent, to being super consistent to not being super consistent. You know what I mean? Like, it's like those ups and downs. So now I've been a lot more, like right now I'm on a 47-day streak. At the time of me making this recording, I'm on a 47-day streak. So that's me being consistent, and I do like 3 lessons a day, every day. Like, right before bed, I just do 3 lessons and I go to sleep, because I do one of those audio podcast, and then I just fall asleep to it. And I also, bruh, I've done so much to try to learn Spanish, and it's still so hard to learn Spanish. What I also do is I listen to like those binaural stuff. Like I listen to like Spanish sleep meditations and all that stuff. Like I go like, learn Spanish while you sleep. You know, I do all that stuff, and I don't know, Spanish is still hard. Like I feel like I'm finally like cracking the ice, but it's been like 10 years, and I feel like that's because the thing is, another thing, I was always more open to learning French, right? Because my family is like Haitian, so they would always speak Creole. So it's like I kind of intuitively understand Creole, even though I don't understand Creole. It's like I'm more familiar with Creole than Spanish, kinda. But I'm more open to learning Creole, right? So I've taken a lot of French classes. Like most of my time, most of the language classes I've taken was French. I was taking these French classes, and most of the time, there was this one time I was like, you know what, I want to start learning French, right? I just randomly want to learn French. So I started learning French, and then I went back to Spanish, and it's like I forgot everything about Spanish. I was like, what? And I realized it was how dangerous it was, right? I realized how dangerous it was to try to learn multiple languages at once. And I realized, okay, I cannot learn French because I started saying all the French words, and it's like I was so much easier to pick up the French. Like I'm like a sponge for French, right? But like with Spanish, it was like the French and the Spanish was like colliding and clashing with each other. And it's just like, oh, okay, nah, I can't do this. So I just like went straight up to Spanish, and I was just like, I'm just gonna focus on Spanish. But yeah, how effective is Duolingo? It's pretty good. Duolingo is more like a lifestyle because it's free, right? So since it's free, you don't really have to worry about, I gotta pay for my Spanish class or nothing. But yeah, Duolingo is like a lifestyle. You just gotta do it every single day. Like I don't think that you'll get fluent unless you're like, unless you make it your life. Like if you make it, oh, this is my life, is Duolingo, maybe then you'll be fluent, but you gotta make it a lifestyle. But yeah, with that being said, like the video, comment below what you think, subscribe if you're new, and if you have any questions, just DM me on Instagram at Torius at 6 Feet Interviews. I'll make a video talking about your question. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my Patreon and to donate to my charity, A Hand on the Mountain. Link in the description, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.